If you have felt scattered recently, you're not alone. I have felt the same. There's a lot of chaos happening, perhaps personally and especially in the world. And instead of your energy feeling like it's part of the chaos, I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to regain my center, both psychologically and spiritually. So let's get started.
Welcome to the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, a place for the strong, sensitive, spiritual seeker to recognize the perfection of your human journey, emotional and spiritual worlds through proven and grounded frameworks that support you to live in the wholeness you already are. For over the past 2 decades, I have supported people from all around the world, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to dissolve the divisions within them and live with greater empowerment and love. This podcast is an exploration of the paradoxes that befuddle us as we live our lives being both human and divine. Together, you and I, along with other experts, will navigate integrating psychology and spirituality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the darkness and the light, to create greater sacred union from within. I believe through your remembering that you are innately divine, that you will allow yourself to more openly shine. So let's get to it, because your unique light is needed more than ever.
Hello, beautiful soul. Thanks so much for being with me again this week. And if you are new, welcome to I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, where we look at our humanity as a gateway to remembering our divinity. And let me tell you, I've needed this reminder over the last week. I feel like I have cried so much, more than I have in a long time, just because personal things that have been coming up and the weight of what we are experiencing in the world. And it has just been a lot. And it's left me feeling scattered. And so I really had to utilize the tools that I've been working through, that we've been working through together, to really come back to center. And that is a part of our human existence. We come here in the human form to experience these challenges that wouldn't allow us to embody the love, truth, and power that we are in any other way. It takes us from knowing something mentally to feeling it within our being. And our human self is going to have fears. For the past couple weeks, I've dealt with a family member being very sick and feeling like I was the person that had to make the decisions about their health. And it was just overwhelming, and it was sad. And so I had to process that and find my center so that I wasn't taking on everyone else's fears around me, and I could get clear about what the right best next step was, as best as I could in my humanity, right? And I also have my twin boys. They're leaving to study abroad, and that just brings up the parent fears of your kids being so far away, and how I can honor that while also honoring that I want them to have this experience. I want them to live expansive lives, and that comes with risks, and being able to hold both and not be taken away into the fears. And then, of course, everything that's going on in the world, and how we can get baited by more and more fear and anger. And really, how do we find our center? And really recognizing that our center is our power, because our center is bringing us back to our truth, love, and power, and helps us get very clear with that. And so it requires us that we have to navigate or I should say, we're invited to navigate our humanity with flexibility and trusting in the highest good. When things go wrong, one of my sons was leaving for Europe and his flight got canceled at 2 in the morning. And it's like, okay, I guess we're figuring this out now so that he can find a flight, right? We just got to be flexible. We just got to go with it and trust that that's what's for the highest good for him and not get too caught up in things, and also having compassion. Like I've been so tired because I've been up with all sorts of things as well as my own sadness and feelings that I was navigating. So it's really understanding that these experiences are going to happen for all of us. Doesn't make us weak. It makes us human, and it's an opportunity to know ourselves and to continue to choose to hold both our humanity and divinity and not make one wrong, especially our human selves. Our human selves, we're here and we have human needs and we have human experiences, and we want to allow our love to incorporate our human needs and experiences. And so what happens is that when we worry and we're in fear, it feels like things are out of control. And that's when we start spinning, and it's really easy for our ego and our mind to start tripping us up and feed off that chaos. And again, if we're hooked to social media, you turn on anything or the news, and it can also feed that. So we really have to pay attention to what is fueling us at this time and how we can stay informed without spinning out. And when you're just constantly checking your phone and it becomes more habitual rather than informative. So this is how we want to really remember that we have a choice when it feels like there's worry and fear and anger and chaos, that there's always a center point. There's a center point within the universe. And we are a reflection of the universe. And so we have our own center point. And for me personally, at times it has made me feel that, how do I want to reel this energy in that's spinning, that's scattered, that's all over the board, and recognize that this is my energy field. We each have our own energetic field. So we're part of a greater collective field, and we have our own energetic field. And even when things are challenging, even when we are in trying times, we have a choice as to how far we want to be taken into the chaos, how far we want to be taken into the fear, and decide that we can choose to find our focus. We can remember that our focused energy will help us be more determined with creating a field of energy that works for us. And it aligns us so that we can walk the way of love, so that we can align our humanity with our divinity. The vertical and horizontal axis to our field comes together, aligned in a way that we want to be feeling. So that's where this necklace that I'm wearing comes into play. I like to wear jewelry that's symbolic and is supportive to the energy field that I want to bring forward. And if you can't see my necklace, it's basically on the top is a triangle pointing down, and at the bottom of the necklace is a triangle pointing up, and where the two triangle points meet in the center, and there's the center point. And this is really representative of that notion, as above, so below. And really the above of our mind and the below of our embodiment and our thoughts versus actions, and bringing them together in a way that is representative of the energy that we want to emulate. So you are the center of your energetic field. And again, your energetic field is part of the collective field. And we have more influence with ourselves when we're in our center, as well as our experiences when we're in our center, and with one another. We can influence one another in positive ways, as long as it's not being manipulative, when we are coming from our center, which is aligned with our truth, love, and power. And so this is the converging point of perceived dualities to create union from within. And so we have these dualities in order to help us understand different processes that we're going through, but ultimately they are meant to come together. And we are meant to bring these aspects of ourselves together from within ourselves. This is really about being able to bring heaven on earth, the above to the below, through the expression of the divine that you uniquely came here to be. And so this isn't at all spiritual superiority. We're not saying that we are, the only expression of the divine. We are understanding that we uniquely are an expression of the divine, that each of us was born with the divine spark. And when we can find our center point, we can be attuned to that divine spark within us. And it's really understanding that when we bring both together, it's not either or. And this is what has happened so much in our world, is that when we're working on our psychology, we're working on the below, and so to speak, and we're doing this inner work, but we don't always integrate the above, the higher mind, the higher consciousness, which is always working with us in order to know ourselves and to know the love that we are. And so we are better served, and we make our life easier when these two are converged within us and we recognize that. So if we're just in the spiritual realms and we just want to be love and light, that's when we spiritual bypass, because we don't recognize how the darkness is there to, the so-called darkness is there to help us know thyself, because it's when we're lost and we're in the dark and we feel untethered that we are learning about our true selves, because what we are being untethered to is our egos. It feels like the divine has abandoned us, but it's really our ego attachments. And so we need those experiences to honor our humanity, and how our humanity is helping us gain deeper self-compassion, empathy, and love for ourselves, and therefore one another. And so when we get into that spiritual bypassing, that's why I'm always sharing, this is not about spiritual superiority. That can happen when we spiritually bypass. This is about bringing it to earth, where we have such honor for the complexities and challenges of what it means to be human. And that ultimately we can sift through all those experiences to embody deeper love. Now, if we get into the psychology without the spirituality, in my opinion, we lose our way as to what this is all about. If psychology becomes so biologically based that we forget that the root of psychology and where it all began was a spiritual exploration to know thyself, and that there's something important in knowing thyself, because when we know thyself, the true essence of who we are, our center point, then we are no longer being ran by our ego in the same way. So let's start with making this very real, and some of the things that I was considering when I was feeling scattered. So let's start with the above, which is our consciousness, our thoughts, and the importance of defining our own field of energy. And where I was guided spiritually was, I was really turning to Mother Mary and her holding this mother energy. And she really guided me to stand in? What is the energy that I desire in my field? And really, because here I was as a mom, worried about my kids, playing out this scenario could happen, that scenario could happen, they're so far away, blah, blah, blah. And so whether you look at Mother Mary as an archetype or a spiritual force energy, it's really being able to channel this energy to guide us when we have challenges, that we can relate to this archetype, to this spirit, to support us. And so she was really guiding me. What's going to be your choice? How are you going to define your energy field? How are you going to define yourself now as a mother? Because my roles are changing in my extended family and with my children. And so that was a very poignant piece, because again, it was bringing us back to this notion that we always have a choice. And it's so easy for those old patterns to want to come at us, especially again, when the world feels chaotic. It wants to turn on more of those fears. And instead, we want to be able to utilize our thoughts consciously. So thoughts and prayers are energy. They tap into the infinite possibilities. And so I am a believer of thoughts and prayers. I don't believe we should stop there, but I do feel like that is a part of the above that we want to bring forward, that we do impact. Now, when I say we impacted, it doesn't mean we always get what we want. We don't always get what our minds think that we need to experience. We are, and that is why being into the feeling state of what we want, thinking about the feeling state of what we want is very powerful, because it channels and focuses the energy without being very specific that it's got to look like this or else I'm going to be upset and disappointed, right? And so it's understanding that we may not get what our mind wants, but it's an experience for our soul's evolution. And I think I've shared this before, but I'll repeat it again because it was so powerful. There was a time where I was praying for something to happen that was so meaningful to my essence, my soul. And I did not have that happen. And yet I experienced the most profound love that I've ever experienced by not getting what I wanted. Like, this love was just like, I felt so loved by not getting it, which sounds so strange. But I just felt that I was being held in love by not having what my mind thought it was so emphatic that that's exactly what I needed. And it wasn't. And so it was such a beautiful thing, because I was realizing that, and being able to allow the love that the divine wants to bring to me in the form that the divine wants me to experience it, to allow that. Because ultimately what we're all here to do is experience more love. And so if I'm going to experience more love by not having what my mind thinks I ought to have, then what a gift is that? Because now it brings us greater freedom. Now I'm not chasing after something. And I just know that that love is available when I allow it to run through me. And it's the same for you. It doesn't have to be attached to these things that our minds, our egos are so convinced that that's the way that we're going to feel and experience more love, more happiness, more fulfillment. So we are first inviting ourselves to create the energy that you want to direct from the above into your being, into your field. And this does not have to be a long, drawn out ordeal. This is really just being in the understanding that you can impact and influence your energy field. And you do that by being in the feeling state that you want your field to experience, and allow the divine to expand that feeling state, how the divine feels that what is the best potential for that to be expressed, and trusting and being flexible and having faith in that. And then the below is all the work that we've been doing, everything that I've been talking about for the last couple months, where we've been really clearing our vessel. So in order for the divine to be anchored into our bodies, doesn't mean we're going to be perfect at it, but it's just being willing to have the consciousness to look at ourselves courageously with vulnerability as to where we get triggered, where we are challenged, where tears arise, and honor that for helping us to know ourselves better and what's underneath that for us, and where fear still lives, so we can bring in more love, and we can see the love that is right there for us to reclaim. And so the work we have been doing is to clear our energy channel. We're allowing the divine to work through us. And it's not an easy task all the time. That's why I always say it's the most courageous that are willing to do this. It's the most courageous and honorable that don't spiritually bypass, that don't, make their spiritual connection a superiority thing, and are willing to be with the humanity and their human selves, and the ways that fears get triggered, the ways that anxieties and worries and anger and rage come up, and to be with them consciously. And so this is where we are able to allow ourselves to move from the storylines of the small s self. And the small s is not to belittle our humanity. Our humanity is the opportunity for greater compassion and empathy towards ourselves, towards one another, because we know what it's like to fall into fear and duality consciousness and all of that controlling us. And it's just the small s because it's not our sacred self. It's not the truth of who we are. And so this capital S is our sacred self. To me, that's how I look at it. And so it's through the recognition that you show up as your sacred self. This is the opportunity when we come to our center, when we come to the center point, because we're willing to see the old storylines and choose otherwise. So it's not about, I never have these old storylines. It's, oh yeah, they're right there. But instead of me going into them or continuing to really turn up the dial into them, it's recognizing I have a different I have another choice, and to honor that you get to recognize that choice within yourself, to really honor that. You are so courageous for being able to see that. And I'm telling you, it just allows your love to be expressed and felt more readily. And that's such a gift to give yourself. And it allows you to stop sitting on the sidelines with your small self, who will make excuses, and just makes you sit on the sidelines of life saying, I don't know if I can have an impact, if blah, blah, blah. This is the victim storylines that we buy into, that again, aren't our sacred self, that aren't ourselves, that know that we are power. And we must be power because we are made from the divine, which is all powerful. So it's really recognizing that you can create your own sense of urgency to honor the power that you are. And we can do that by listening to what is not sitting right for us and not tolerating behaviors that go against your values, but doing so in a way that it consciously aligns with the love that you are, and recognizing, honoring the love that others are as well. So this convergence is when we align the vertical axis of your divine self with the horizontal axis of your humanity. And they're coming together, and we're like at that point. And so you're grounding the above field and bringing that field of energy into your body by anchoring in that energy of that which you want for yourself and others to feel. And you can feel this in your heart. Your heart is the center, it's the convergence of your chakras. So chakras can also represent the above and below. And so the first, the higher chakras, 7, 6, 5, become the above, and then our heart's the center point, and then our lower chakras, 1, 2, and 3, are the lower chakras, and again, the uniting force is our hearts. So our feelings and the intelligence of our heart and how we feel becomes the tool that energizes the thoughts that are coming from the above, the higher mind, and allowing them into our bodies, and then through us, through our actions that we are called to take, through aligning our humanity and our divinity. And from this place is how we want to take action. This is how we get clear on being able to be attuned to our truth and our knowingness, and be able to take focused action that is led from an energy that is really, it's beyond ourselves. And we're trusting that because we know in our hearts what it feels when we are aligned. So again, I think sometimes this can be turned into like the divine's working through me and it's got to be this big, huge, unique thing. No, it is just a feeling state that we can take all this scattered energy and we visualize ourselves in the center point, and we feel it because we feel an aliveness within our hearts. And that's what is really activating our spiritual knowingness, our essence, and the love and truth and power that we are. So the most simple way I know how to do this is really by breathing into our hearts, where you focus your in-breath and your out-breath as if it's coming from your heart until your heart feels alivened with energy. So maybe now, even as we speak this, if you just put some attention or put your hand on your heart and take a breath in and take a breath out. And you do this a few times. You can even sense in my language, I'm slowing down. We tune in. We remember. We remember the love that we are. And you are safe, protected, loved in this center point and in the present moment. And so it's really bringing us back to the power of the present moment. This is our center point. Then when we're in that place where we feel the aliveness of our hearts, then we can ask, how does the divine have me address this for the highest good of all involved? And it's less about what you're thinking and more about how you're feeling. And you can trust in how you feel because of all the work you've done in the below. That's what has got you to this point, so that you can trust yourself. You can trust what you're feeling. And so it may not be a direct answer, but that feeling state that you have consciously brought forward and now connected with and embodied is going to be the answer that gets carried forward in your decisions. So there'll be a choice point. Do I do X or do I do Y? And the feeling point will guide you as to which one is what is right for you in that moment. And can you trust that and follow that, especially when it goes against what your mind thinks you ought to be doing? And this is how we are reclaiming our truth and trust in ourselves. and allowing the divine to work through us with greater and greater ease. We build that muscle within us. So now we are allowing the divine to guide us and move us through inspired action. And then just notice how your energy state is feeling. Notice that the fears, the scatteredness seem to be like outside of your field, or maybe they're still in your field. Maybe you can sense it, but the what's reigning more true to you, or what the overpowering energy is, your heart's energy. And those other aspects, the fears, they just seem less relevant, even though our minds made them and our egos made them really relevant. Maybe just a few minutes ago, they become less relevant. And so this is why our divine selves can step in to see a wider perspective and to allow us to remember in our hearts the power of trust and faith, that we're being guided. And in our center point, we can find that again. Now, I will say, I know what it's like to be going through periods where there was so much ego removal that there was like no sense of groundedness. And if you're going through that, it's just really understanding that that's part of the muck, that's part of the mess. Like sometimes the divine just like, scatters everything out. It's like throwing the puzzle box open and the pieces go flying, and you're just kind of in the mess of it. Sometimes we're in that state, but and in that state, it's very hard to find our center. I mean, that's how it was for me. And yet we can take one loving step at a time. What is going to be the loving thing you can do for yourself that will ground you in the energy of love? So, two simple things: breathing into our hearts, three simple things. Deciding what energy we want our field to hold, breathing into our hearts, and really allowing ourselves one step of love, an act of love that we know will support our field to feel more love ultimately. So even if we're in that scattered state, that act of love will come forward. Even if it's a teeny tiny bit, it's going to bring something, some speck of love to you amidst the chaos that you may be feeling. So it's also being able to recognize that as we do this, what we are doing on a spiritual level is that our emotional intention of what you are holding for yourself allows others to experience that as well, because we have an influence upon one another. And we know that, right? Like when people are in their fear and in their worry, it's very easy to get caught into that. And so we want to be able to anchor into the opposite and support ourselves to be able to anchor into the feeling states that we want. And then when we're in that center point, it becomes an arrow that we're going to release into the field, into the larger energetic field of potential and possibilities. And we know it's going to hit the bullseye of impact that you are here to create, because that intention is for your highest good and the highest good of all at a feeling state level. So you're still allowing the divine to work its miracles, to tap into all those potentials and possibilities that will bring forward that feeling state. So it's less about the individual and the ego getting involved of like, I have to be the one who does it all. And it's being a part of synchronizing our energies for the larger good. And that we are here to be a part of the greater good using our individual voices, our individual actions consciously. So these are some individual practices that can support us and to allow us to be in awe of the love that you are, and to see that and feel that in your hearts, And then see how that can spread to one another. Like when a flower just takes your breath away, or you're passing by someone and they just smile and you smile, and there's some beautiful connection because you feel the love that they are. And again, not only is this a gift to ourselves, but just think about how important that type of energy into the collective field is right now. And the world does not want us to know that the power, or the world hasn't want us to know the power that we have with our own energetic fields and the impacts that it has on one another. It's wanted us to focus on external powers that feel limited, so that we fight one another. And this is our opportunity to shift that as we begin from within, centering ourselves, reminding ourselves of who we truly are, tapping into that energy and allowing that energy to expand from us. It's a beautiful gift, and it is the antidote to feeling scattered. So I hope this supports you. I hope you recognize that this is how we bring heaven on earth, that we are each meant to do that, and we are here to do that, and that's why we were born to do that. And it's part of our innate being and power. And I think it's more important than ever at this time. It's why you were born during this time. And I'm so excited as to what your unique expression of how you are going to be doing that and integrating that into the field. So thank you so much for your inner work, your willingness to find your center and to allow that heart energy to grow within you. I love you. I honor you. I'm in awe of you and your power and your courage and your truth and love. And really how you continue to show up despite challenges, to practice walking the way of love. And that's what we're all doing. We're practicing and doing it the best that we can. So until next time, know that there is nothing to fix, just to remember.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive, and spiritual, and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.